Okay, we are live. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. They're here, the Craven County Community Bail Fund. I have Craig Rosendale and Ben Watford here with me. Hello, gentlemen. How are you? I know it's been a little journey this morning, but we made it, and we're here to talk about all the great things that you guys are doing. Are you ready? I'm ready.
Yes.
We're ready. We're ready.
Okay, well, let's talk about this great foundation that you have, and also talk about what you do, what you've done in the past, and what you look forward to doing in the future. And what it is here, it is basically the Craven County Community Bail Foundation Fund, And what they do is assist people who are detained pretrial when they can't afford to make bail.
That's right.
They want to end the injustice of pretrial incarceration.
Correct.
Now, this is happening in Craven County at the moment, but you never know how many resources they have outside of Craven County. So, Craig, in the past, let us tell us how the bail fund works and how can one get help if they need help.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us today. It's great to be able to talk about our bail fund, which we just started at the beginning of this year. We did a lot of research last year. What the fund does is it operates a revolving fund. We've raised funds which we revolve, as in we go and bail somebody out. Like this week, we bail somebody out for $1,000 out of our local jail. A few weeks down the line, it's actually in September when this person is due to go to court. So that person would have stayed in jail for 6 weeks at least. And then that case might have had a continuance, which means another 2 months perhaps in jail. So this person was facing months in jail. Don't forget that they're innocent till proven guilty, and months in jail. And so we bail this person out. When finally that case is closed, often charges are dropped. It doesn't mean the person's guilty by any means. When the case is closed, we get the $1,000 back. We go back to the jail. We repeat the process. We bail the next person out. I tell you what would be quite interesting, though, if we go back to the beginning, because I said we started it last year. If you say how we sort of started this up, we met and then we were doing a letter writing campaign initially, weren't we? What was that about?
We were actually, when I started looking at the jail system here in Craven County, I only wanted to change the visitation hours. Inmates are allowed only 20 minutes per week. That means that if your mother comes in on Wednesday, that's your day. You can see her for 20 minutes. You can't see anyone else until the next week. I thought that was cruel and unusual punishment. I was working on that aspect. When I met Craig suggested that we start this bail fund. And I really didn't understand what it was all about. But looking at the system here in America, we jail the innocent. Our Constitution and our system of jurisprudence says we're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But if a person is stopped for a traffic ticket, driving without a license, they go to jail. They are put they're incarcerated. That's wrong. That person is totally innocent, even though it's alleged that he committed the crime. Mm-hmm. But we still jail them. The first person that we bailed out was a woman who had been in jail for a month for driving without an expired permit. And I couldn't believe that they would jail someone because of this. But there's one other thing I think you should understand. There's a reason why we have this cash bail fund, this pretrial incarceration. It has generated a large number of businesses. For example, it started private jail system. The bondsmen, the people charge the inmates for the company that charges the inmates for tablets. There's a company that charges them for phone calls. All of these businesses have worked into our capitalistic system, and that's why the system continues to perpetuate itself. Now, the interesting is that there are only 2 countries on the globe that have a cash bail system where they incarcerate a person for who is innocent until proven guilty. That's the United States and the Philippines. No other country has a system like this.
Yeah. So what, as Ben says, what we do here in this country, we decide whether somebody should be released pretrial based on their wealth. So if you're a serious criminal, but you have the money to bail yourself out, then you can do that. If you're a middle-class person such as Ben and I guess, would call ourselves that. If we happen to fall foul of the law, we'd have the funds in our bank. We'd bail ourselves out for that 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever it might be. We'd bail ourselves out. The poor, people of color, and people of color are definitely disadvantaged by the whole system, because they get given bonds of 500 or 1,000, and they typically will have to stay in jail prior to their trial, which, as we're saying, can be months. What the rest of the world does is, you can probably hear my English accent. I spent a lot of my time in England, though I've been in the States. I love this country. I've been in the States for 20 some years. But what the rest of the world does is, there's a court hearing soon after an arrest, and if you are you have serious charges against you, then you're incarcerated pre-trial. Okay, you might be innocent till proven guilty, but you're suspected to be a risk to the population, so you're incarcerated. But 90% or more are not put into that category. They walk out. They're just told when their court date is, and they come to court. In this country, we have this idea that it's the money, the skin in the game, that brings people back to court, and it's not the case.
True.
It's not true. Jessica Smith, who's at the UNC School of Government here in North Carolina, has got some great research online that you can look up about this, and she shows that
93%,
typically 93% of people, when they're bailed out with cash involved, they will come back to their court date. 93%. But there are places around the country where they have abolished cash bail. And she's compared that 93% with the places where there was no cash involved. People have been released on their own recognizance, a promissory note. They promise to appear. No cash involved. Well, guess what? How many of those appear? 93%. It's actually one tick under, I think, 92%. But let's just call it the same. So the cash in the skin in the game is not the issue here. And while I'm just talking about, typically poorer people who get inside for 500 or 1,000, we've developed this bondsman system, which I guess people feel works. Typically, you pay 10 or 15%. It's usually 15% here in Craven County in North Carolina that a bondsman will charge you. So let's say you do have $1,000 bail. So you've got to find 150. It has to be in cash, and then you can be released. Well, finding 150 isn't easy for everybody. But another way the system doesn't work is the bondsman that's his fee, her fee, $150. For those bondsmen, that's not worth taking their time and taking their risk. A lot of the time,
if your bond is $500, no bail's bondsman is going to touch it, because he's only going to get maybe $75. He would have to go there, spend 3 hours waiting for them to bring the guy out, fill out all the paperwork, and do all the work for $75. Bail's bondsmen don't touch bonds that are $500 or $750 or something like that. It's just not worthwhile. So what we have to do, we're not bail's bondsmen. We have to pay the total amount. We put in, if a person is incarcerated and his bond is $500, we pay the $500. We know we're going to get it back if we go to court. We also have follow-up systems. We don't just bail people out. We try to help them. We try to help them in employment, housing, and so forth. It's a total process, and it's at times it gets to be overwhelming for the two of us. I'm telling you, it's at 90 years old. It's more than it's getting to be a real problem.
It takes some keeping up with this 90-year-old. Let me tell you, Tracy.
Wait, hey Craig, let me ask you a question then. Now, there's the bail bill that everybody's talking about right now, which basically restricts the use of money bail. For example, the payment of money as a condition of pretrial release. How is that going to affect the bail fund?
Are you talking about the one in Texas that they're talking about introducing?
Yeah, the HR 1249, that's the 117th Congress. Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to, but it sounds like the one in Texas that I've read about, where they're proposing that people like ourselves shouldn't be allowed to come in and put cash down for people. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yes, it's for pretrial release.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean that would. It's quite obvious that people who want to propose that are just happy to keep the status quo. They know that the jail is a business, people are incarcerated in our local jail. The jail gets $123 of taxpayer money per night for the people who are in there. So, that funds that jail. It funds the sheriff, local sheriff, DA, the whole system, is funded in part. I don't mean in whole, but is in part through mass incarceration.
The system is tied to our system of capitalism in this country, is what Craig is saying. And as long as it's tied to our system of capitalism, they're going to try to keep the system going. If our jail gets our jail has over 300 people incarcerated at the present time. That's $123 a day that goes to that jail from the state. Now, they in addition that pays for the officers, it pays for the big structure they constructed. All of that is paid for by incarcerating people, and the law basically states that they shouldn't incarcerate these misdemeanors, but they do it anyway.
Yeah, let me just talk a little to that, because here in North Carolina, we have statutes that the judges must follow as they're deciding on someone's been arrested and what's going to happen to them next at that moment. What's going to happen after they've been arrested? They go in front of the magistrates. They have to go in within a certain amount of time, 48 hours in front of the magistrate. Well, the statutes in North Carolina give the magistrate 5 options at that moment. The first 3 all don't use cash in any way. The person is released without any money involved. The first 3. The first one is called a release on their own recognizance. It's a promissory note. The others are similar, but let's not get into the detail. The point is they are released without any money involved. And the law says that the magistrate should use one of those 3 methods as the first option. And number 4 is a secured bond, bailing money out by bailing someone out through cash. And it says quite clearly in the statute, this should only be used in rarer cases. But unfortunately, magistrates aren't doing that. Here in Craven County, there are 100 counties in North Carolina. And again, thanks to Jessica Smith and her research at UNC School of Government, I know that our county is 22nd out of those 100 in giving a secured bond. And what they do is, in this county, again, her research, 77% of people who appear in front of the magistrates are given a secured bond. They're given cash requirement to be released. And as I say, the statute says that shouldn't be, but that's become the practice. And whilst we have no proof of this, we're absolutely certain it's to do with the funding that comes through that keeps the whole machine working.
Absolutely, and that's a large amount as well. Now, one question I do have for you is how often and when someone is in a situation where they need your help. When do they need to call you, and what is the process as to how they will receive the funding for their?
Okay, we have at the jail. We convinced the officers at the jail to place our plaque up beside, our poster up with the poster for bail's bondsman. They have a bail's bondsman poster there that tells people you can call this guy and he'll bail you out for a fee. We have a free service. We convinced the jail to put our poster up there. It has on it our website, and we'll get it's difficult for the inmates to call us or to get in touch with us, but they can contact one of their relatives and have that relative call us, like a sister calls or a mother calls, and then we investigate the case, find out what his bail bond is. Traditionally, we only bail out those under 2,500. We just don't have the resources for very expensive bonds, but those under 2,500, and there are many of those, more than we can handle. We can bail them out. Greg, you want to take over? Yeah.
So what we do is, and often, as Ben says, the relative then will get in touch with us through the website. And what is good about that is we then know that the person has a support system on the outside, and we don't sort of evaluate. We're not judging people here at this point. The simple fact is they're incarcerated. pre-trial. They're innocent at this moment. We believe they should be walking the streets. They should be with their families. They should be holding down their jobs. They should be paying their rent. They should be looking after their children, whatever it is. They should be
paying taxes like the rest of us.
They should be living their lives. So, we don't judge them, but we have two sort of things that we like to tick the boxes. And that first is that the person who we're going to bail out is willing to be contacted by us, usually through cell phone. So, and people are happy to do that. And we say to them, look, we want this contact, not because we're going to be in your shoes and be a problem to you, but we're just going to try and help you to make your court date. You know what happens, and Ben was referring earlier about how we try and help the person once they're out a little bit by referring them to other non-profits, for housing or whatever it might be, work and so on. We've got a great re-entry council here in Craven County. But the two things that we look at is, can we contact them? And we say, we'd like to give you a call to remind you about your court date. So Tracy, just, as simple as that. The system could do this. When you have your next doctor's appointment, what's going to happen 2 or 3 days before that appointment, Tracy?
We're going to call you.
They're going to call you because they don't want to lose the cash that you don't come in and take your appointment and so on. Unfortunately, the justice system doesn't care about doing that, because you know what? If you're a failure to appear, that's a chance to arrest you again and put you back inside. And so they're not interested in telling people and calling people.
And they collect that $123
exactly.
a day.
So that's all part of the system. So we call people, we give them reminders, we offer to drive them to court if they need it as well. We got 2 courts here in Craven County that are quite some distance away. So like just the other day, I drove somebody from our local town, Newburn, down to Havelock, which is, 15 miles away, because he couldn't get there. They have a car, him and his wife, but his wife needed the car. So I was happy to drive him down for his day in court. So that's the first thing, that we'll keep in touch with them, give them a reminder. And the second is that we'd like, if at all possible, to have some kind of support system on the outside, family, friends, or something. And that's where, when people contact us through the website, that's who it is. It's going to be a family member or a friend who's keen to get this person out and help to support them. So once we have those 2 things in place, we're really happy to bail anybody out as soon as we can. And that's not to say we haven't bailed people out who don't have any support system. We've bailed out homeless people, but we have one homeless shelter here, one main anyway, here in Newburn, and we'll contact them before and see if there's a place for that person. So, we'll try and help wherever we can. But those are the 2 key things that we try and work with, that there's a support system on the outside and the person is willing to be contacted.
And while Craig was going to Havelock to drive that person to Havelock, which is about 15 miles away, I had to drive to Vanceboro to pick up a lady for her court date. She didn't have transportation, so I picked her up. It complicates things when we have 2 cases in the same day. We try to appear in court with the individuals, and we wear these T-shirts which says "in cash bail." So
and our name below.
And our name below. So they're getting to know us a little bit in the courts, and depending upon the judges you get, you can actually talk to the court. The younger judges are insecure and you have some difficulty with this, but the older judges are responsive to us. In fact, one judge said, look, Mr. Waffle's going to help you when you get out. So he was talking to a young man who had been incarcerated, and I'm standing there with him. Occasionally I'll get there, and if there's a young judge, he will not allow me to even stand there with him. He'll tell me to take a seat. But but they can't stop us. Nothing's going to stop us. We're going to do what we have to do. There's something wrong with our system of jurisprudence, and we're going to work until we get it abolished throughout the United States. That's our prime objective is to abolish pretrial incarceration for misdemeanors.
Right.
If a person commits a capital crime, you can jail him. That's fine. But if a person trespasses on someone's property, which we've had to bail out, you should not incarcerate that person. You should simply give him a ticket and say, appear in court on this date. There's no logical reason for incarcerating. He's not a threat. He's not going to run away. He's not going to be there. And most likely he's going to appear for his day in court. But we still incarcerate people. One of the sad things that happened was the fact that We bailed this guy out who had had an argument with his neighbor. He was in jail on, I think it was 750 for trespassing.
Yeah.
All the policeman had to do was sit there and talk to the two. They've got to live. There was no contact, probably just a yelling, screaming at each other, something of that nature. But they jailed him. There was no logical reason for that. If the police had had any training in psychology or sociology, he could have sat down with the two of them and said, look, you got to live together. You can scream at her for 1 minute. You can scream at him for 1 minute. Then we're going to settle this issue and you two are going to live in peace. But he didn't. He threw the guy in jail and had a bond for him to get out. It's things like that that bother me. I think, and plus the people that are in jail are the very poor blacks, Mexicans, poor Hispanics, poor white. These are the people that are incarcerated. $500 means nothing to Craig and me, but to those people, it's insurmountable.
Absolutely.
And something has to be done about it. And we're going to work on this thing until we solve it.
Now, are you seeing a pattern of those who are going to prison? A pattern meaning the type of crime and also the race. Are you seeing a pattern given what's going on in the world today?
Yeah, yes. There's an awful lot of traffic stuff like open container,
driving without permit,
where where I lived a lot of my life in England, if you don't have a driver's license, there's a bus service usually to get you around. As well as we know here, that doesn't work. It doesn't work in eastern North Carolina for sure. If you don't have a driver's license, you're gone. So, what do these poorer people do in society? They still have a car and they need to get to work or they need to do stuff, so they get pulled over. So that's a typical one as well. And second degree trespass is one as well, where people will go into the same store regularly and hang around a little bit too long or something like that, and eventually the store wants to get rid of them. They call the police and they arrest them for second degree trespass. So it's really minor stuff. One thing I did want to just add, because Ben was just talking about public safety, and I talked about the two things that we look at when we're bailing somebody out. The only thing we will look at in terms of what their charges are is if there's any domestic violence involved, because we wouldn't want to release somebody where we put someone on the outside in danger. And that's not to prejudge the situation. Right. Who knows what that situation was? We don't, but there is a chance of a problem there, and we don't want to be the people to do that. So we do think about public safety a little bit, and particularly on the domestic violence. Tracy, I'd quite like to talk about our funding if that's appropriate.
Absolutely. Let me get to this question before I forget it. Now, when we talk about like trespassing and some of the crimes that these gentlemen or women are committing, can we go into like the education? Some of it is because of the education. They don't know, or they haven't received the education as to the right things to do, the wrong things not to do. And also when we talk about that, we can go into talking about the education of the police officers and their, not having that psycho education, the psychology education to talk to people that are just like you and me that may have a bad day, how we can refrain them from taking the maximum thing, the maximum sentencing of putting them in jail versus having a conversation with them how to do the right thing and having them to go back home with their families.
If that could happen, it would be so beautiful if the police officers could just show a little bit of compassion and simply talk to the individual, explain to him what he's doing wrong, explain to two neighbors who are having a disagreement, just sit down and talk with them, just explain to them how they have to get along. It would be such a beautiful system, but police don't do that. They go in and put someone in jail.
And this is where we get into the talk about defunding the police. And, we're not anti-police. We don't want to stop police forces, but we're sending the wrong people out there to do the work. We're sending a police officer with a gun on the hip who has been taught as part of his training that in every moment when they're outside, the people outside there are a danger to them. There are people with weapons who might attack them. And this is how police are taught in this country. And believe me, it's a difficult job. Don't believe me. You can go. What I mean is, I believe it's a hugely difficult task. But for these people, but we're sending those people into a situation where, as you say, we need somebody who's trained in psychology and relationships and sociology and so on, and That's what we need to be funding, that we're
See.
sending the right people into the situation where they can really help the people to resolve situations rather than incarceration. At the moment, what we do is it's incarceration first, and that's it.
I firmly believe that the only way we're going to get police to do a decent job is more education. For a teacher to teach in the public schools, I had to have a master's degree to teach chemistry in New York. Okay, now for a police officer, they come from the left side of the bell curve. Their IQs run from 100 down to 70. And then you expect them to do a decent job? Forget it. Police make more money than teachers, and yet they don't have to have college degrees. Until we require police officers to have, there was a time when a teacher could teach with a high school diploma. You could teach the elementary school. Then they made it 2 years. I had sisters who taught with the 2-year degrees. 2-year associate degrees, they could teach school. Then they made it so you had to have a bachelor's degree to teach. And now in most schools, they require a master's degree. So, but for police officers, there's no educational requirement. We expect them to go, we pick them from the bottom of the barrel, and then we expect them to go out and do a decent job. They can't do it. It's impossible. Until we require more education, until we require college degrees for our police officers, we're going to have this problem.
And Mr. Ben, not only that, you have police officers that are coming into areas that they don't know about the population of the population, the culture, the diversity in the area. They're coming in and they haven't communicated or been in the same circle of these people. They don't know what the problems are, the underlying problems are within the communities. Now, I could say this: I come from a background of where there was policing, but the police officers not only lived in the community, they frequented the community, so they kind of knew what the culture of the community was.
But you will. There's one thing you will know, that none of the black men that have been killed by police officers are from my generation, and there's a reason for that. My parents set me down, and then my 7 brothers, and set us down and said, "Look, you treat police officers like they are gods, white police officers, because they can arrest you, they can kill you, they can put you in jail. And here in North Carolina, nothing's going to be done about it." And I haven't gotten, and she was in her Southern vernacular, she said, "I ain't got no money to be paying for somebody's bail or to pay for a funeral." And so we were taught, but in the present generation, after the civil rights movement, parents stopped teaching their kids to fear white police officers. Look, when I see a white police officer ahead of me, I remember what my mother said to me, and it always frightens me, even at my age and in my position in society. It still frightens me when I see a white police officer. I know they aren't trained. I know they can kill me. I know that there's nothing can be done about it, and it's until we educate police and require them to have college degrees, we're going to always have this problem. We pick them from the left side of the bell curve. The IQs start at 100 and go down to about 70 or lower. The only thing, I'll show you how bad it is. They can't even teach them how to kill a guy. This police officer shot the guy 7 times and didn't kill him. Where does he think his heart is? Where does he think his brain is? It's a disaster.
Oh, dear.
Well, we're working on this bail fund, and I'm glad I tell you, it's interesting how I met Craig. We live in the gated community here in New Bern. It's one of the few gated communities, and I don't know how I happened to ever get here, coming from my background with 15 sisters and brothers. But I live in this gated community, and Craig lives here also. I was coming in through the main gate one day, and I saw this white guy standing there. And he had a big sign that said "Black Lives Matter." I knew there was something wrong with that guy. So I had to talk to him.
Or something right with that guy, right?
So, no, there was some. Well, you don't know this community. You have to deal with this community. There's something wrong with this guy. I said to myself, I got to talk to him. So I went over and talked to him, and Craig has become my best friend. I mean, I love this guy. We work. We are a team, and we work together on this bonding thing. But that's how I met him. Can you believe that? I couldn't believe it. It was incredible.
Well, Craig, real quick, let's talk about the fund. You said you wanted to talk about.
Okay, yeah, just real quick. We did some of our own fundraising, mainly through some of Ben's contacts. And we raised a few thousand. We did pretty good. But then we also linked to 2 national organizations, the National Bail Fund Network and the Bail Project. And I'd encourage anybody who's interested in finding out more about this to go to YouTube and look up the Bail Project. Robin Steinberg, she's got a great TED talk about how she got into this in the Bail Project. So we got linked with these two organizations, and they were giving us support and sort of informal training, if you like, through Zoom calls. Really was great. And then to our surprise, one of them said to us, we'd like to give you some funds. And they gave us a couple of $10,000 worth of dollars. And that was out of the blue. We didn't expect it. So it's fantastic having the support of these national groups behind us. And I just want to throw at you also, sir, and for your listeners, some other reasons why freedom is so important. Pretrial freedom is so important because if you're incarcerated pre-trial, you're 4 times more likely to be given a custodial sentence, you're incarcerated after your case is over. You're 4 times more likely to go to prison. Secondly, you're 3 times as likely, you will get, if you do get incarcerated and you've been detained pre-trial, your sentence is likely to be 3 times longer than somebody who was not pre-trial. And the last one I want to throw at you of these stats is, if you're a person of color, you're 2 times more likely to be detained pre-trial.
Wow.
And that's what we're finding in our county. We've only bailed 14 people out, but we're finding that people of color are more represented in the population that we're trying to help. Who, in other words, they're being detained pre-trial.
And you're serving Craven County at this moment. Is there any other organizations like yours outside of North Carolina?
Yes, there are other bail funds like this in North Carolina. We were the 4th that we're aware of that was set up in North Carolina within different regions of the county. And if you go to the National Bail Fund Network site, National Bail Fund Network, you look that one up on Google, you're going to find a long list. I think there's 100 or so that they affiliated with them across the country. And the Bail Project as well, these 2 national groups, they're working hard to change things nationally and with some success. Illinois passed laws earlier this year, which is going to lead to, in 2022, the abolishment of the cash bail system. California has been working towards it for some time. The bail bondsmen are organizing there and trying to stop it. New Jersey's moving forward with it. So is New York. There are places in the country where things are changing to do with the cash bond system. We hope we're going to bring it to North Carolina. It's a longer road ahead, but we're going to do our stuff, aren't we?
We're not going to quit.
You're going to handle it. Well, you know what, Craig and Ben.
That's the message. End cash bail. Right now.
Well, right now. Well, Craig and Ben, I want to thank you so much for being a part of Positive Vibes on today. And I know that your message has went forth, and there's going to be people calling you regarding the cash bail fund, not just here in North Carolina, but all over the world. I hope you guys will have an amazing Friday. And you're always welcome to come back and give us some updates regarding the cash bail fund, the bail bill, and also what we can do as a community to help others to be able to, if they go to trial, come home and be with their family. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy. It's been great to be part of your show.
Thank you, Tracy.
Don't forget, on August 21st at the Craven Terrace in the Big Field, there's going to be a huge event for kids. It's a back to school event. It's going to be sponsored by the Vision Forward, Victor Taylor. So come on down and meet some people.
Tracy, we're going to try to do that. And it's been really great talking to you.
Awesome. I kept my promise, guys. My word is my bond. You're always welcome to come back on here and share some news and also give me some insight regarding how we can help people, not just in North Carolina, but all across the world. Let's take it global.
All right. I like it.
Guys, have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome.